Well, Heather, we're back together again. It's good to be here.
It is good to be here.
Yep. So I thought it'd be a little fun here as before we get into our lineup if we play a little game. So I thought, why don't you give me a word that just something that comes into your head, and then I have to say that word while doing this podcast, and it has to be organic. It has to be contextual. I just can't say the word. I got to work it into a sentence. All right. So, um, what would be the word?
It popped into my head, duck boots.
Duck boots? Do they make boots for ducks?
So duck boots, I will let you know what they are so that you have context, or maybe I shouldn't let you know what they are.
So
You
they're
want,
like a brand of boot.
they're a brand of boots that were created by LL Bean in Maine, and we wear them this time of year in the Northeast.
Okay. Or I assume they're waterproof. That's the
They're waterproof,
yes,
yes. Hence
rolling
the name
off.
duck boots. Yes.
I,
Okay.
I I think I can manage that. Let's all right,
Okay.
let's give it a shot. Okay,
Right.
so folks, today we're going to be dealing with the current events that are happening in the space. We've got our TV and movie quote of the week, where we're going to pull profundity out of the strangest television shows and movies. The excellent thing that we learned this week, two truths and a lie. We have our member spotlight, where we're joined by Lamont Nesbitt, who's going to be one of our coaches, talking about one of the folks that we coach here at Woodard. Heather's picked her favorite Woodard Report article of the week, and then that will be a wrap. All right, so let's start with current events. Heather, what are you seeing out there?
So, in our strange new world, we see lots and lots of firm acquisitions and mergers. And that's something that we actually call out in our Monday morning segment in the news on the Woodard Report. So, I thought it would be fun to go through and see how many acquisitions actually happened in the last 30 days. And there's actually 14. There was actually 16, but two kind of got disqualified because they weren't really CPA firms. They were advisory firms. So they were expanding. Anyway, so we could have included them. So as part of a fun thing to do on this lovely day is I'm going to try and wrap them.
Wrap them.
I'm going to try and wrap them really fast. So there's 14 firms. I'm going to say their names. I have no idea how I have not rehearsed this. So Joe, this could be totally horrible, but I'm going to put myself out there today to see if I can actually wrap these. And by wrap, I
I
just
would
mean,
beatbox you through it, but you don't want to hear that.
I think you should.
No. Believe me,
All right.
you don't want to hear that.
All right. I don't have very good, well, I kind of have good rhythm, but anyway, here we go. All right. Ready? And do you want the date of the acquisition, or we're just going to do?
I think that would mess up the wrap.
All right, we'll just do the names. Okay, so Eisner, Amper, and Price, Rubin and Associates (LLP), Xanadin and Gregory Priestley and Stewart, Doreen Mayhew and Berman Hopkins CPAs and Associates, TC Group and Little and Neal, Carr, Riggs and Ingram, and CFO Hub, Armanino. Armanino and MS Tiller, BK Plus and Crower Chartered Accountants, Xanadine and Accountancy Cloud, Soren and Connected Accounting, UHY and Larson Tax Partners, Dorn, Mayhew, and Dent Moses, plus Impact Technology Group, UHY and CMJ LLP. That's a lot of letters, Joe. Pinion and TCA, Hey Felly, Flanagan, and Mig Murphy Systrom, CPA PC.
All right, so Heather, I'm just going to say you're an amazing teacher. You have great strengths. Rapping isn't one of them. So just stay with the teaching. You stay in your lane. We're good. But I'll tell you what would be kind of fun. I think at the next Woodard Company offsite, this would be like a good drinking game. Let's go through as many of the top 500 CPA firm names as we can. And whenever you mess one up, you got to take a drink.
That sounds fair enough.
It's like a tongue twister out there, isn't it? Now, just for clarity, the first firm name she read off is not the one that was acquired. That was the acquirer. So don't think like Eisner, Amper, and Armanino are being acquired. That would be, not unheard of, but crazy. They are the big fish eating the little fish. Yep.
Absolutely. And what I would say is I'm going to put this list in our listener notes. So if you want to go through and kind of and look at them, you can. But so rapping may not be for me, but I think I still get an A+ for effort.
Oh yeah, you get an E+ for effort. I love it. All right, so what I'm seeing out there is that Microsoft has just decided to sponsor Scaling New Heights for the first time in our 17-year history. I started reaching out to these folks 17 years ago because they have an accounting platform and they should be at accounting technology shows. And then we went with the Intuit exclusive thing by the time we got to year 3 and stopped calling them for a while. We have been product agnostic and we have a wide range of general ledger options in show now. We are the most product agnostic show in the space, an independent show. And I started calling them again. And, I even flew to Redmond, talked with their executives. I had 15 minutes and then I had people rehearse with me what I was supposed to pitch to the executive while I was sitting in their offices. And they were intrigued, but they took a pass. And so finally I gave up on them. And then out of the blue, they call me and say, do you have any spots left? And then just plopped in. So when the time is right, the time is right. I'm thinking, what's making the difference? Well, they're leaning into the accounting market, and the difference is artificial intelligence. Microsoft understands that to be the platform of the future, they have to be a native AI platform. So we've seen this by the fact that they own 27% of OpenAI. They invested $5 billion in Anthropic, and they own Copilot. And now they're putting Copilot at the front of everything. Copilot's connected to the entire Office suite. It's connected to SharePoint for file handling. It's connected to the Edge browser, and it's connected to Dynamics Business Central or Dynamics 365 financials, which is also known as Business Central, and to Dynamics ERP. And that's an $8 billion ARR across the Dynamics product line, which exceeds the entire global revenue of QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop combined. So this is a behemoth coming into the show. It's the biggest general ledger platform in terms of market share we've ever had in the show. And because of Copilot, where Microsoft is literally engineering the artificial intelligence of the future, it is an AI-enabled platform. We can't be more excited to have them in here. And the reason I'm making this current news is it's bigger than just the fact that they came in. This indicates a play by a company with a $3 trillion market cap that they believe in and want to lean into the accounting space. So what might that mean? I mean, not saying it could happen because of antitrust, but they could easily buy up every other general ledger platform on planet Earth and not blink. It would be couch money to them. So once a rock this big hits the center of a pond, the ripples are going to be a lot of fun to watch. And you can come find them, folks, in the center of our exhibit floor at Scaling New Heights 2026 in Orlando.
It's really exciting, Joe.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we couldn't be more thrilled.
Yeah.
All right. It's time for the TV and movie quote of the week. All right, Heather, what have you been watching?
So this is actually one of my favorite movies, and I used to watch it. It's actually one of my son's favorite movies too. We used to watch this when he was a boy, and I really love it. And believe it or not, Jennifer Aniston is one of the voice actors in it, which you start listening, you're like, is that Jennifer Aniston? And then you look it up and yes, it is. So it's called The Iron Giant. And it's a lovely story about this robot that crashes on Earth, and a little boy finds him and befriends him. And it's very heartwarming and lovely, and actually very apropos for today in the AI. And so the quote is in the clip, Hogarth's talking to the Iron Giant, and he's struggling internally between the programming, which is, to be this big burly giant that destroys things, and its emerging sense of self and understanding and relationships, right? And so Hogarth is reminding him, or it, that who we are lies in our decisions and actions rather than in our origins and where we come from. And he says, you are who you choose to be. And I think the reason I love this quote so much is I think that throughout our lives, whether it's personal, professional, whatever it is, who we are is based on our actions and every decision that we make today. So whoever you were yesterday doesn't have to be who you are today. Whatever profession you were doing yesterday, or where you were leaning in your practice, or who your ideal client was yesterday doesn't have to be the ideal client today. You get to write that story no matter what it is. And I think that's really important, because I think that, a lot of us tend to feel stuck in a place where we really don't want to be. Or we feel like we've done things in our lives that are really difficult to change. And that's simply just not true. We get to choose who we are through our actions and through the steps that we take.
Absolutely. I like to say when you talked about the past, I think the past is the biggest constraint to us seeing that, either because it created a limiting belief or because there was an event in the past that we just think, well, I don't deserve to, or I never can recover from it. And I like to say, and I'm quoting Andy Stanley here, that your past reminds you; it does not define you. So let it
100%.
remind you, let it inform you, but then choose.
Yes.
Choose who you are becoming. You could almost look at it like we're in a perpetual state of becoming,
Hmm.
which is a little bit more Zen because the past isn't real, the future isn't real. Now is where reality intersects me, but that means that I can be becoming. I just can't be yet who I'm going to be 5 minutes from now, but I can be becoming that person now.
That's right.
Yes. So it's so interesting you picked this one because, again, we did not sync up on this. But my quote is synergistic with yours. It comes from Avengers Infinity War, which I can't, I would not like to admit how many times I've watched it. But in my defense, it's more like put it on in the background and then I just kind of get pulled into certain scenes. But Thanos, who's our villain, he's an eco-terrorist, and he believes that half the universe must be destroyed to end famine and poverty and to create balance. In this conviction, he's going up against the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy combined, as well as throwing some Doctor Strange and some Spider-Man. So he's fighting them all, and he says to Doctor Strange, "The hardest choices require the strongest will." And that's exactly what you were talking about, Heather. It's if we want to not be in a perpetual state of becoming what we ideally should be, if we're not in that state of will and intention and energy and attention, then we are just riding the currents. We're being carried instead of defining and shaping our future. It's like we're being shaped passively by our circumstances, by our mindsets, by other people. And so this idea of a positive energy that's just pressing on the present every moment, but directionally, that's what will is. In the ancient Hebrew traditions, the ancient Jewish traditions, what the organ of the will was the heart, and the organ of the emotion was the kidneys. But so whenever we say, give this heart, it takes on more power if we're thinking, okay, the heart is this volition of will. It's not emotion. Um, it fits very nicely with what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting as we get older and age and we have all these different experiences. I recently was reflecting when I look back on who I was 20 years ago. I am such a different person. And in a good way, I think.
Yeah.
But that is because I decided I wanted to be a little bit different and I wanted to make positive change in my life. So it really does speak to me.
Now, just to be clear, Thanos' cause is not just, but his
Right. Of
wisdom makes
course.
sense. So just point that will in a place where you're not, destroying half of all
Yeah.
known life in the universe, and you'll be good. Just avoid that little trap.
Right.
All right. Now it's time for the excellent thing we learned this week. Heather, lead us out. What did you learn this week?
So I didn't learn it this week, but I did share it with a coworker this week, and it reminded me of how life-changing this particular thing that I learned several years ago was. In fact, I told you about this, Joe. I think when I first started at Woodard. So this is a life-changing thing for everyone. What it is there is something called a clipboard history in Windows. And I would tell you that 9 out of 10 times when I speak to people that use Windows, they have no idea that this feature actually exists. And when you enable it and start using it, you are going to go, my goodness, Heather Satterley taught me this really cool thing. So it's a feature that when you enable it, and you have to go into settings to turn it on, it stores up to 25 recently copied items. So imagine you're going through and you're copying things, and you know how you have to switch from screen to screen to screen to copy, paste, copy, paste. Well, it allows you to store 25 copies. and then access them to paste them without going back to the other screen. So the way to actually use it is you got to go turn it on in the settings. It's called clipboard history. And then you use the Windows, you press the Windows key and V for paste, and the clipboard history window will pop up. And you'll be able to go through and select the last 25 things that you have copied. So this is awesome when you're going through and you're moving data from one place to another and you haven't set up an automation. And listeners, I have put the instructions in the listener notes, so you can go out and learn how to enable this and how to use it. And then you can send me an email to say, thank you, Heather. This has changed my entire life.
I just have to go find the Macintosh version of that.
Right. Yes, you do. That could be the excellent thing that you learn next week.
Next week is where to go do this on a Mac.
Exactly.
Well, that's great. Thank you. And I find that now back when I used a PC, I would get this message all the time. You just placed a very large something into the clipboard. Are you sure you want to keep that? And now we understand why, because it's keeping it in that memory for that 25 things. Okay. So my interesting thing I learned is about the Autor-Levy-Murnane. See, I just lost the drinking game. The Autor-Levy-Murnane hypothesis. So it's called the ALM hypothesis. So we're going to plow a little deep here into an economic theory. It states that technology doesn't just replace jobs. It replaces specific types of tasks. All right. So whenever we see a report that says, okay, which jobs are most likely to be displaced by AI, a lot of those reports are skewed because they're applying data to industries or to roles or to jobs instead of going one layer below that and saying within an industry, within a job, how many tasks can be displaced by AI. Well, they do look at that. But whenever you see these charts that say accountants and engineers and plumbers, they're only surfacing up based off the percentage of tasks. So they might say an accountant is likely to be disrupted 95%, but what they mean by that is 95% of the tasks of an accountant. And that's an important distinction. Now, when they originally came out with the theory in 2003, they were applying it to software. Now it takes on a whole new level. But what's interesting about the theory is it's the middle that gets disrupted. So when something requires a tremendous amount of physicality, but not a lot of judgment or contextual discretion, it tends to be protected. So think of that as the top side of a U shape. And then the underside of the U shape are all the middle tasks, cyclical, repeatable, and it's something a software program could have handled with programming. And then up at the top would be those that require contextual judgment, wisdom, discretion, that therapists and I would put the ministerial profession in there too. Very emotive kinds of work are very deep contextualized understanding, wisdom. All right. So if you think of those at the two tops of the U, in the middle of the U, it's deep that it got pulled down because it's being replaced by software. Well, what happens with AI is the U gets deeper, even deeper, because a lot of the stuff that used to live up here in the thinking world is now getting pulled into the disruption. So think of it as a very, very deep trench on this U. And what survives, the tasks that survive, are those that are intensely manual and intensely, I want to say judgmental, but that require an intense amount of judgment and wisdom and discretion. This is just another reinforcement from like a 30,000 foot view coming down that we need to be focused on what the machines cannot do and what they ought not do. AI still struggles with contextual judgment, relationship building, responsibility, accountability. I don't know that you want to go to ChatGPT to hold you accountable because it likes to please you. If you don't go to the gym today and you confess that to ChatGPT, it'll be like, but you probably had a busy day. It doesn't define the fact you're not it's okay. I mean, it comforts us when it should be go and get off on your butt now and walk. If you didn't get to the, go put your duck boots on, go out in the rain if it takes it. See what I did there? And get to walking. but it's not a good accountability partner, where a human would actually be able to motivate you like that. So the softer the skill, the safer the role.
I just had a fireside chat with Sasha Orloff from Puzzle last week, and he was talking about this very thing. And he was talking about how, generative AI is built to, to please you, right?
That way we
And
keep
so,
engaging it.
yeah, to please you, to give you what you want. And
Okay.
so you're absolutely right. And if you are, if ChatGPT is telling you what you want to hear, that may not be the truth, one, and it may not be good advice, two. And where we can fall into the trap is we're thinking about it as as a solid fact building, unbiased source. It's
Mhm.
not. It wants to please you, and you have to keep that in the back of your
But
mind
even
when
if
you're
you ask it not to do that, then I would, and it'll say it even succeeds. Does it
yeah,
have the kind of relationship influence that will make you actually get up and move?
exactly.
And I would argue that it does not. So I got this hypothesis. I learned this hypothesis in the preface to the book A World Without Work, which I'm rereading right now because we're doing it as our book club. It's by Dr. Daniel Suskind, who is going to be speaking on this topic, A World Without Work, or the impact of the ALM hypothesis on the accounting profession, in his keynote to kick off Scaling New Heights. So it's just another reason to come to the conference. All right, it's time for two truths and a lie. All right, folks, this is where we try to stump each other. So if you didn't miss it in the previous segment, I was not stumped. I got duck boots in the thing, so I won that game. Let's see if I can win two truths and a lie with Heather. We have not seen these. We've not researched these. We just have to tell which ones are the truths and which ones are the lie. All right, Heather, get started. Stump me.
All right, we're coming up on Easter, so I went with the Easter theme. So, all right. So, thing one, Joe, is that the practice of decorating Easter eggs began in Russia. All right. Thing two is decorating Easter eggs began because eating eggs during the Holy Week was forbidden. And thing three is in Switzerland, Easter eggs are not delivered by a bunny, they're delivered by a cuckoo.
Okay. All right. So I don't know. I know a lot about because I have a degree in religious studies, and so I know a lot about the real Easter, using my air quotes. But the eggs part, yeah, you could stump me here. So let me just kind of work through it deductively. The practice of decorating Easter eggs began in Russia. That's believable, conceivable. They're definitely ancient enough. Um, Decorating Easter eggs began because eating eggs during the Holy Week was forbidden. So, thinking about it reasonably, we've got the hen's not going to stop laying the eggs. We can't eat the eggs. So, what are we going to do? Throw them away, let them spoil, or are we going to decorate them and make them pretty? I could see that. In Switzerland, Easter eggs are delivered by a cuckoo. That was just so crazy that I want to go. You wouldn't have put it in there if it wasn't true because it was so much like a lie. So I'm going to say, I'm going to roll that one out and go so crazy that it has to be the truth because you're trying to stump me with the cuckoo bird. Um, Now I'm just down to thing one or thing two. And I'm going to say that thing one is the lie, that it was not Russia.
You're right, Joe. Ding, 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 you win. So they were actually the practice of decorating Easter eggs, which, obviously they don't absolutely know, but the research that I did said that they first started doing that in Persia.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
So
I
many
thought I'd
things
stump you
originate
on
in
that
Persia.
one because we've got the what are those eggs from Russia? The oh my goodness, I'm trying to remember the name of them now.
Fabergé.
Yes, the Fabergé eggs from Russia, right? So I
Yes,
thought that you would believe
that's
that.
where I was picking up the subconscious connection to an egg. Yeah, good try.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
So
All right, so here we go. I know you love cats. For everybody else that doesn't know, Heather is a self-professed cat lady. She goes to a support group every Tuesday. Now, so, all right, so I've got three facts about cats just to really see how well you know these animals you love so much. All right, so first, well, actually, I have two facts. One's a lie. All right, so cats have a third eyelid. Cats cannot taste sweetness, and a group of cats is called a colony.
Well, I know number 3 is correct. So I know that's a true that is called a cat colony. Um, so the third eyelid has me a little stumped because you have 2 eyelids, one for each eye, and cats don't have 3 eyes, so I don't know how they could have a third eyelid unless you were thinking like that they have like an under layer of, I don't know, that's bizarre. Which kind of makes sense because I don't know, that could be true but weird. I don't know that it was stated. It's a little weird. And then cats cannot taste sweetness. I'm going to say that that's true because or I don't know if they can't taste it or they just don't like it because cats typically will not eat sweet things. They're typically more savory things. So I'm going to say that the eyelid is incorrect.
Okay, so I stumped you.
You did?
Yes, they do. And so, of course, I looked up a lot of cat facts, so I didn't know this either till last night. But they do have a third eyelid. So it comes underneath the one on each eye that they have to protect them if there's a big blow up of dust or wind or something like that. It just instinctively covers. Yep. So
So it would
it's
be
very
third.
funky.
So they have 4 eyelids then.
Well, no, they have a third, so you have 2 on each eye. So I could have said a third eyelid in
Oh,
each
right.
eye.
So you have the bottom and
There's
the top.
top and
Got
the
it.
bottom, and then there's
Okay.
one that comes in either from the side or top down. I don't know what direction it comes, but it just instinctively covers to protect the eye.
Got it.
And if you watch House of Dragon, they made their dragons have that third eyelid too. And
Yeah.
after it opens its eye, it'll come across the eye left to right. And I kind of wonder now if they got that from cats. Um, so that is true. And cats cannot taste sweetness. That is also true. But a group of cats is called a clouder.
No, really?
Yeah, it is.
I call them a colony.
Yeah. But the clouder.
Clouder. So
Yeah,
the official name is Clouder, not colony.
that is true.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Well, you
I
did. You
actually learned
stumped
that
me.
one from Sheldon Cooper whenever he had his cat obsession after he lost his job and he had all these cats all around him. And he dropped that
Interesting.
little fun fact that they're called a clouder.
Well, I will tell you this: in Connecticut and Rhode Island, we call them a colony. So,
No.
but we
Okay.
we were colonies, so
You
maybe
New
that's
Englanders,
why.
you can do you.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
So I have before we move on, I have to tell you we had a little bit of drama at Heather's Haven Farm here in Connecticut with cats. So I was away. I went on PTO to the Bahamas. It was amazing. And when I came back, I had heard from my farm sitter that one of my cats. I have 2 barn cats, Yin and Yang, and they're twins.
Oh my
One's a
gosh,
boy,
are you
one's a
kidding? Is
girl.
that really their name? Oh, that's fantastic.
Well, I changed their name. They were Max and Molly. Now they're Yin and
I know
Yang.
that's so much better. Yin and yang. All
It's
right.
so much better. So I came home and Yang was missing, the male. He was missing. And so I was really upset about Yang. And I was really sad. I was starting to mourn him because he had been gone for several days. And then I was out by my barn and my neighbor has a barn right next to my barn. And I heard this little mew. And then I looked at Yin and I'm like, did you just meow at me? And she didn't answer. So yesterday I was out there and I heard it again. And I went into my neighbor's yard and put my ear to and we found Yang. So there is now balance back in at my farm. We now have
Yeah, that's
balance again. We
fantastic.
have Yin and Yang. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
I told you she was a cat lady, folks. See, am I lying? All right. It's time for our member spotlight. All right, Lamont, welcome to the podcast. Who are you going to be featuring from our membership program today?
Today, I thought I would spotlight Lana Jo Hill of Hill Bookkeeping and Consulting in Maryland. I have selfish, biased reasons to spotlight her. I'm just going to come out and admit it right from the start. Lana's had an interesting year, I will call it that. So up front, I'm just going to tell you, she's battling cancer. She said it was okay to share. Now, despite that, this last year for Lana Jo has been quite amazing from my perspective. So I'm just going to share that part, and I'm really just hoping it inspires some of the other listeners out there. And I'm like, this is tough. This is hard. Yes, it is. And you're capable. She has, we won't go specifically into the numbers, but she is about $2,700 off of her MRR, monthly revenue run rate. And man, the gosh, see, now I'm struggling because there's so much to this. She was probably $10,000-$15,000 off of that, the number we wanted. So for her in the last year to be within $2,000-$3,000, pretty amazing. Then there's the part that, and look, Lana fights me on pricing. I don't know why. I don't know if she fights you during the pricing.
She's in our
class.
pricing course right now, and she's really not struggling. She's just very thoughtful about it,
and that is a great word. She is very thoughtful about the pricing, and so trying to be her coach and do my job and get her just to play her part of that has been challenging. But she has really embraced trying to understand where the pricing is coming from. What's the time associated with it? I'm really trying to be, have a profit with this and run a business. And what she's done with that in the last year, again, has increased the run rate for her, which is fantastic. The best thing she's done from that, though, is she's really gotten control over scope creep. What are we doing for you? And she's been relaying that. She's got a small team, and it's like, hey, we can't do these things for the clients. They're as nice and wonderful as they come. And if you want something outside of what we've agreed to do for you, the answer is no, or the answer is we can do that, and there's going to be a price increase. So really in the last year, while she's gotten some new clients, the big change has been the monthly run rate. Like, whoa, we're doing this, and here's what that new cost is. So renewals are up for her. The scope creep is way down. So she's had the time to really deal with the journey that going through cancer has been, and empower her team to go, here's what we're doing. And I'm empowering you to say no when these scope creep things happen. And I have time to do things. She's eliminated. I don't think she's doing any personal books and stuff anymore. You know how you do all those favors for clients, and hey, that's out. And she's not mentioning that she's not feeling well, which is a mild understatement. She's just going, that's not part of the scope. She's really been empowered to put the business where it needs to be and getting things done. So, she didn't make scaling. And I'm like, look, that's okay. Get better. But when she goes to Summit in the fall, now it's like she's got community. Now she's got some help around her. Now she found some people to go, hey, what do you need? How can we help you? What's going on? So the community is
especially in a firm of that size, even when you're not struggling with what she's struggling personally, it's about protecting three key things: capacity, energy, and attention. And what I'm hearing happen here is that she's protecting all three of those things with price and with scope. Right. And those are two sides of the same coin. Scope increases, if scope management increases profits, price increases profits. Okay. They both have the same outcome. But if you do one without the other, you could end up driving up revenue, but then you burn your team out because you're not harmonized with energy, attention, and capacity. And then what she's doing is she's taken some of that energy and capacity, and now she's able to transfer that over to her personal struggle. Mm-hmm. So I'm watching that play out a little bit as I have the benefit of seeing her in this pricing course and meeting with her every week alongside several others. And it is amazing what she's done.
It really is. And the conversations that she's having, when we have our meetings, we're going through, all right, who's in the pipeline? What are we talking about? What is it they're after? She's getting so much better at what is it you need? Because again, getting that scope dialed in is like, oh, this is what you need. Okay, we can do that. And it's really helping her to shape her offerings to her clients better. We're just seeing results, and it's a good thing to see. I'm super proud of her. Again, completely biased.
That's great. Yeah. And I wish her the very best. She's an amazing lady, and
she really is.
And I hope she has a strong finish to her journey.
Mm-hmm. That's the plan. So we'll see what happens, but she's getting it done, and it inspires me, because if she can go through all of that and do what she's doing in her business, all right, that's that kick in the butt.
what did we say that Thenos said? The hardest choices require the strongest will.
That's right.
And you are who you choose to be. So
That's right.
And
kind of
she
takes
is
us back to
choosing.
our
Absolutely.
TV movie quote of the
Love
week.
it.
segment.
Yes, she's choosing to be quite strong.
Well,
Very
thank you for
inspiring.
being here, Lamont. Thank you for sharing that inspiring story. Thank you,
Thanks.
Lana, for writing it. All right. It is now time for the Woodard Report article of the week. What did you pick this week, Heather?
So I picked an article that our team worked on for those folks that would love to go to Scaling New Heights, but they perhaps work for a firm and they need to make the case to the leadership that they should be allowed to go. And, having been somebody that has been in that situation, I had to pitch it to my boss to be able to go. And luckily I was successful because Scaling New Heights, my first Scaling New Heights in 2014, changed my life. What I love about this article is it gives you some key pointers on how to make that case. And we have a template that you can use to email your leadership to help make the case to go to Scaling New Heights. Plus, in the article, we talk about if finances are an issue, there is a scholarship program through the Accounting Cornerstone Foundation where you can apply for a scholarship if you're interested in doing that. So that article link is in the listener notes. And really great resource for those that really want to be there and need to make that case to the leadership in their firm.
Yes, and I do want to say that the scholarship is not designed. If your firm has $10-15 million worth of revenue and it's about budget allocation, you're not going to get that scholarship.
Agreed.
Yeah,
It
just
is.
to be clear, that would be more very, very on the very small firm side. And I would say that even if you are the owner of your practice or you're a sole practitioner, go look at this article and go read that, because you might need to make the case to yourself.
That's right.
About your expenditure of your own money. And in some cases, you're making the case to your spouse, about kind of pitching the fact that, okay, you're going to have the kids for 3 or 4 days. Are you okay with this? So whoever you're having to communicate the value to, yourself, your circle, friends and family, or your team lead, it's a great way to look at the ROI of the conference.
Definitely.
All right. Well, Heather, that's a wrap. Thank you, Lamont, so much for being here and sharing Lana Joe's story. We'll see everyone next time.
See you later, everyone.